Stephen, it seemed as if the bells had struck for New Year's Day and the election campaign had begun. Is this something you're excited about?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, it does feel like that. We are off and running. We are into the general election campaign. If not properly announced, we know it's going to be sometime this year, and yes, it's going to be a very exciting year. It's a year for change. That's what we're working towards.
Do you feel that, well, we say from the bell, so to speak, but it was David Cameron who really started first. Do you think that's a strong impetus to start on?
Yes, I mean, people have said for a little while that they don't know what it is that we're going to be campaigning on, and I think we have had a very strong start in January. We're telling people what we're going to be standing on, what we're going to be standing up for, what our plans will be if we are fortunate enough to get into power, and I think we have made a great start. We've got to keep it going. We've got to get out and knock on doors and communicate with people and tell them what it is we believe, but I think, yes, it's all looking good so far.
But I guess to be fair to yourselves, it's not as if you've just started now. Your presence naturally has evidence in the media, this is a rolling campaign for you, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I've been the candidate for 3.5 years nearly. Certainly will have been by election day, and over that time, yes, we've spent a lot of time knocking on doors and talking to people. So yes, we are in that final run. I feel like it's now the right time for an election. People are telling me that on the door. They want the change. They want the opportunity to express their view and pass judgment, I suppose, on this government. And I'm very keen to be there when they do that.
What is it about this government, when you're on the doorsteps, that people are most disappointed about?
I think they're most disappointed about the fact they seem to have forgotten that they are there to represent the people. They've broken that link. What they have done over the 13 years that they've been in power, I think, is to stop putting people first and start putting government first, whether that's top-down targets, whether it was the 10p tax debacle. They just seem to have forgotten what they were for, forgotten that it's actually people that we are there to serve. And I think once you do that, you've lost it. I hope that the next Conservative government will put people right back at the centre of everything we do, and if it has an adverse effect on them, we have to make sure that we explain why we're doing things and explain why it is that that pain, if necessary, has to be taken. I think it's a clear difference between the two parties, and I think that will manifest itself as honesty during the run-up to the election. Which party is actually going to be honest with you about the challenges that we face and how we solve them? There's been an awful lot of scaremongering over the last week and a half, month and a half, however long you want to go back to whenever we started this campaign, about what it is the Conservatives are going to cut. We're going to be honest with the electorate. We will have to make savings. They don't necessarily have to affect the front line, but just because the Labour Party says we're going to cut it doesn't mean we are. Listen to what we're saying, not to what they're saying, and then I think we will be back on the right track. It's going to be a very interesting year, I have to say, and I think the campaign itself may get pretty dirty over the next few months, but I am absolutely determined that we must fight this election on an honest basis so that I can come back, if I'm fortunate enough to get elected, in 4 years' time and look people in the eye and say, you may not have liked everything that we've had to do, but we were honest with you about it, and that we were genuine, and now together let's see if we can move forward.
Some critics say that the Cameron-Osborne axis is very much like the Smith and Kinnock axis in '92, that they do. Well, how do you convince people that you are the right stuff and credible enough to carry government forward?
Me personally, or as the party?
You personally, and as a party as well.
Personally, I get out there and talk to people all the time. You know, we're doing it 4 or 5 times a week now. We knock on doors, we chat to people. You're here at my workplace in Romford. You know, I'm a man who works with people from across Essex. I am a different type of person to perhaps some of the other people within the party. And I think if you look at the broad spectrum of candidates that David Cameron has got standing at this election, you will find there are people from all walks of life. Yes, there's David Cameron and George Osborne, perhaps who have been to private education, and then there are those who have come from very humble backgrounds, but all share the same desire, and that is to do what is best for this country and best for the electorate, and they all believe that this government has failed the electorate.
So if we're talking politics, I mean, where do you place yourself? You know, the Conservative Party is a broad church.
It is.
Where do you place yourself in the church?
I would say I was a one-nation Tory. I have been a fan of Margaret Thatcher. I am a fan of Margaret Thatcher, but the world has moved on. We now need different policies for a different world. And what I want to make sure is that if we are fortunate enough to get elected, that we govern for the entire country, not certain sectors of it, not little pockets here and there, but for the whole nation. That's what I'm keen to do. That's what I've tried to do when I was a councillor, always trying to think about the effect that the decisions that I was making would have on the entire district. And now I hope to do, or play my part in that, in government. And I'm sure that that is the road that the Tory party will be taking come whenever the election is.
Of course, we spoke to Angela Smith last week, and she described herself as the underdog. So are you the hot favourite then?
Well, it's interesting she describes herself as the underdog. That must mean that she presumably accepts that the government has failed and therefore people are making judgments on that. It's very interesting that the incumbent describes themselves as the underdog. I think it's going to be a very close race. I wouldn't put myself as the favourite. What I would say is that I have fought on a consistent platform over a long period of time and tried to highlight where I believe this government has failed. And yes, if you look at the opinion polls and you talk to the people I talk to, they would tend to agree. They think it is time for a change. They would like to see a change of government. And I'm hoping that I can be part of delivering that change.
If we go back to the economy, then last week seemed to be a good week. We've had retailers at John Lewis's Primark saying what a great Christmas. FTSE improved well in the early part of last week, and indeed Gordon Brown and Peter Mandelson were in Thurrock with DP World. So that must all be good news, which will help Labour, surely.
I think they are important indicators, and I think some of those things are very good news. But I don't think we're out of the woods yet. We've got a long way to go. We need to wait and have a look at the general figures for the whole economy. Are we out of recession yet? We were surprised that we weren't out in the last quarter. Is it now time that we move on? I think it's going to be still a very tough year for a lot of people. Anything that says that things are improving has to be welcomed. Now, whether it will help the government or not, I don't know. I think that people have lost faith in this government, and while yes, we are going to get an improvement in the economic situation at some point in the future, whether the government will be able to claim responsibility for that and whether they will benefit, I don't know. All I intend to do is to highlight where I think that they have let the people of this country down, certainly in South Basildon and East Thurrock, and that there is a better government in waiting to come in and change the direction of this country.